everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Medical Myths, the show about what not to do with your body. And today I have a very special guest, Neil, the 604 Atheist, arguably one of the people who made my channel what it is. And I'm very, very happy to have him here.
Arguably?
Arguably.
No,
Yeah.
I'm claiming soul. No, never mind. I'm kidding.
I was like, I'll let people compete for who wants to be the first person to have me on their channel. But anyway, how you been, Neil?
Good. Pretty good. We decided to move our jam times from Saturdays, which is why I'm able to be here, to Friday nights. But I couldn't go last night because I did Truth Wanted last night. So.
Oh yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had, I think we had about 4 callers or something like that, and we talked for quite a bit of time with some of the people, and actually they were all really good conversations. I mean, there was no yelling and screaming and shut the fuck up and hanging up, and none of that happened. So it was a good time.
Any good topics that were brought up? Any interesting claims?
Oh man, you see, this is only my first cup of coffee, and you're asking me to remember shit from yesterday.
I was curious if there's anything that like really stood out as something.
Well, a lot of talk about souls.
Oh, got it.
Afterlife. Couple of people that called in were atheists, anyways, but they wanted to talk about how good the movement was becoming and in shutting down bullshit and stuff like that. So it was interesting.
Yeah. Tons of Mice says Neil the 604 sole reason for everything.
That's
Happy
right.
to see you here, Tons of Mice.
I caused the Big Bang. Sorry.
Yes.
I said, pull my finger, and that was it.
And then the universe happened. That's right. Where we all come from. So I know most people here know who you are, but yes. Where can people find you?
Well, right now I'm in my bedroom, and the address is... No, I'm just kidding. You have my channel, Neil the 604 Atheist, Deconversion stories and stuff like that. And you can find me on the various ACA shows once in a while, too, like last night on Truth Wanted, and I'll probably be on an episode of the Nonprofits soon, too. So, yeah.
And you have a show tonight, right? Is that correct?
That is correct. I am chatting with... oh, hang on here. I was on the wrong page. Chatting with Carrie J. Walker.
Ooh, that sounds like a fun conversation.
At 5 p.m. Yeah, should be fun.
Yeah. So, without further ado, today's topic is genetically modified organisms, and also maybe chemikillz, because that's a term that I've seen on the internet before.
I think it's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
A lot of people have. Yeah, some of them do.
Oh no, it's true. It's true. So I know that the GMO panic has been going on for a while, and I think at least 90s. I've seen less of it recently, but maybe that's because I've been less invested in that side of the internet. But this has been going on for a while, hasn't it? People have been arguing about, is it safe to consume something that's genetically modified? And I mean, before, without giving away kind of where we're going with this, what would you say to people? Let's say somebody called into a show that you were on and said, I just don't think we should be playing God and messing with DNA. What would you say to them?
First of all, it's not playing God, right? I think that's just silly as fuck, to be honest, to use that type of terminology. We are curious by nature as a species. And if we can improve certain things in our lives, even food, then we're going to look into that. And we're going to look into making things actually safer or better. Most of the GMOs out there right now, actually, you'd be surprised. Even people that are against GMOs have probably eaten GMO products every single day. The thing is we try to improve how things grow, keep things or allow things to grow during drought times, use specific genes that produce pesticides and stuff to keep specific pests from attacking the plants, herbicides and stuff that keeps the weeds and stuff away. But all of these things are tested thoroughly, and they are not harmful. The levels in them. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. There are some chemicals that are no good, really, but at low levels, they're ineffectual on you. So most of the stuff that's passed and given out there for human consumption has been passed by the FDA and a couple other organizations as well. That I'm old and my brain doesn't work anymore, people. So sometimes it's hard for me to remember shit. So, but nothing makes it to market that is actually going to hurt you in the GMO world. I can't say that for everything, but in the GMO world, it's all the stuff you're eating out there is safe, and some of it has been improved. They always say, one of the things I think is funny is they always say, "Oh, I've eaten, an organic," which, by the way, that is a scam term. Organic foods taste so much better than genetically.
No, they don't.
Nobody's altering genes to flavor. Well, some there. Okay, that's actually a lie. There are a couple that do enhance flavors. For example, bananas. The very first banana that we ever. That was crossbreeding, mind you, to get rid of those giant pits that were in bananas to make them what they are now. The original strain of banana that was a result of that has gone extinct, and it was the best tasting banana. So they've now started adding genes from the, I guess, supply that they had from the original, and it starts with an S. I can't remember the name of it, but they've taken genes from that to improve the flavor of the newer breeds of bananas that are out there. So. That's one example of increasing flavor.
And something that makes me laugh, and I'm sure we'll come back to this at a later point, but the fact that, like, these people who are anti-GMO, like, number one, do not understand the mechanism of how you modify DNA, but then they'll be so worried about this specific type of genetic engineering, and then they'll still eat organic ruby red grapefruit, which we know was produced through mutation by radiation. So if that's okay, like that kind of genetic modification by random mutation is okay to them, which one of the arguments they bring up is the unpredictability of, like, but how do we know it's going to do what we say it's going to do? But you are supporting something that is done by random mutation, uncontrolled mutation, and saying that that's okay. But then this precise method of targeting an exact gene that we want to produce, that's unpredictable and dangerous to them. So we have a disconnect here already about what the mechanism is. And to kind of show this disconnect, I'm pulling up some Facebook posts.
Tomato blood.
So this is, I went to Facebook because there's this trend on May 5th. I don't know if there's something specific within, like, the farming community or the GMO research community about May 5th, but they were saying that to go and search #GMO on Facebook on May 5th and see what's going on. So I did, and this is what came up. So the first one, and these are all public posts, so I'm not showing anything that is not, like, for the public to see. But this first one says, it's got Heinz tomato blood tomato ketchup, and it says, "This is on the shelf at my local grocery. I know, it's just a joke or a conspiracy theory. Go ahead and eat it, not me. If you know, you know."
You know,
and
what?
Then all the signs of the times. Here's your sign. Wake up, America.
So shit. This looks like it may have been taken on Halloween, and Heinz did a joke label or something.
I think it is. I think that is exactly what happened. And then the next one we have is 50 plus holistic doctors have mysteriously died in the last year. And this person is saying that this is related to people trying to keep people sick and addicted to prescription medication. Disease cannot exist. Like, talking about GMO-free alkaline-based diet, decalcify your pineal gland.
Oh, shit.
Which is a whole separate topic.
Don't even get me started on that fucking bullshit. the pineal gland. They're going to open up your third eye,
Yep.
people.
Yep.
If that ever happens and you see something pop out of my forehead like that, just kill me because something's seriously wrong.
So we have things like this. That's obvious
mysteriously
propaganda. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I bet if you looked up each and every one of these, if you could even get the names, because they clearly haven't listed any of the names. It looks like they just pulled a bunch of random pictures. As a matter of fact, there's one picture there, third row down, third photo in. It looks like from the vantage point I'm stuck looking, it looks like fucking Joker. Like he's got kind of greenish hair or something. But I know it doesn't. But yeah, I bet you won't find anything on this at all. I guarantee you.
And then, of course, there's somebody uses fat phobia to say that it's GMO's fault, which is definitely like not okay. This is a pro-farming post, so I'm going to skip past that. This one is how I started getting into the GMO Free USA, because this is from the website we're going to look at later. This is claiming that GMOs cause autism.
Oh my god! Yeah, they couldn't win with vaccines, so they moved over to GMOs.
And they are asking for donations with this post.
Unbelievable.
So they say a groundbreaking study linked autism spectrum disorder to microbiome disruption. This was the first study to directly link changes in the human microbiome to autism. As has been shown in rodent studies, changes in the microbiome are directly linked to autistic behavior. So they just listed the same point in 3 different sentences. They didn't say anything different in those 3 sentences.
Nope, they just used different words. That's it.
Yeah, this is a dire and direct consequence of our very broken food system. Processed foods like those made by Kellogg's are full of Roundup-ready GMOs, additives, FD&C dyes, preservatives, pesticides, and sugar. This is not food. Yeah, pesticides. Fine, are not food. But sugar is food.
Sugar's in everything almost, but
sugar is food.
How they use what did they say? Monsanto? Is that what they said?
I mean, they didn't specifically mention Monsanto, but they said Roundup Ready GMOs. So
Roundup, right? Which is from Monsanto.
Yeah, which is from Monsanto.
It's a glyphosate, right?
Yep.
So
glyphosate is a patented antibiotic. What?
That's correct.
That kills beneficial.
Just going to say that. I'll bet you they don't even know that they've probably taken antibiotics that have some glyphosate in them. And they go, oh, my doctor gave me this, so I'll be all better. But don't eat it in your food, people.
So for those of you that think that this is only an American issue, they have, as part of this, GMO-free Canada is also listed here.
Yeah, yep.
And Toxin-Free USA is another organization.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. This is another pro-farming. This is what BT corn looks like, and they color code the seed so you know which seed it is. This one's so funny. So they have this video, and the comment is, "The war is real, the food is not. Yesterday I tried to educate a fool, and all he could hear was the sound of his own voice. Genetic engineering is real." I mean, it is. It is real.
CRISPR.
But this is.
I love how they use pictures like that, like it's that easy.
Oh yeah, anybody that does not
like the genome
not worked in a genetics lab, because I've worked in a genetics lab, and I cannot tell you the frustration we had trying to hybridize DNA. I mean, if you're good at it, sure, it gets easier over time when you learn the methods, but it's difficult to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to accidentally get something to hybridize in an unpredictable, more than likely, if you're messing up in the genetics lab, if you're messing up, you just get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happens, and that's probably the most likely outcome. Yeah. It's just well, I have E. coli. That didn't change at all.
Yeah.
But then this lady here, I want to do a whole episode on her, but this is this post really highlights how people are thinking about GM. Oh, and there's people liking my post about us going live. So they edited. This is after the edits. So they had this cookie that says contains bioengineered food ingredients. Mm-hmm. They said the local store manager confirmed that their in-house bakeries use GMO/bioengineered ingredients. Because the regulations have changed, now we are informed the no GMO labeling project was helpful, but this is even better. I'm hopeful that we will have a no GMO section very soon. Buyer beware, Publix bakery serving up Frankenfoods.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So this is the argument. Yep.
Yeah, but nothing at all about what they did, what kind of
Mhm.
things they used that were genetically modified type ingredients. Most likely the flour, because wheat is a hugely GMO'd food.
Mhm.
Corn as well, soy, canola oils, vegetable oils. A lot of those are used are GMO type, and you can't get away from it. They're going to be used in all kinds of different things, even stuff that has non-GMO labels on it, which I think the whole non-GMO food type labeling system is a scam, anyways, or a sham, because you read some of the ingredients, or you can go online and actually find a deeper source of those ingredients, and some of them do come from modified wheat that's been used in making the baking goods or whatever. But they still put that non-GMO food label on there because it sells.
Yeah, it does. And people are like, with logic like this that's being shown on the internet, people are scared of genetic engineering. And so they think that the label protects them. Like, they are profiting on people who just don't know. And like, I'm not mad at the people who don't know. I'm mad at these people who do know, who
Take
are
advantage.
actively profiting and taking advantage of these people who don't know. And this person is trying to
Oh boy.
be scientific about this. So we have this big, and it's funny, like the images, the stock images that they use are hilarious, because GMO is not injecting a tomato with pink liquid. That's not how we do
What?
Like, look at this picture. It's got like a syringe and a needle, and they're just injecting the tomato with this like pink liquid.
Oh
Like,
my
this
goodness.
is obvious fear mongering. It says avoiding GM foods improves health, which they're going to pretend like they have data. So they say a peer-reviewed study in 2018 redefines how we think and speak about genetically modified organisms, Roundup, and organic diets. The survey results reveal that
Love throwing Roundup.
3,256 people reported improvements in 28 health conditions after reducing their GMO intake. Many
Bullshit.
conditions were nearly or completely recovered. If you're skeptical, you're not alone. Years ago, when people told me they could tell the difference when they ate GMOs versus non-GMOs, I didn't believe them. I am embarrassed to admit this, since by then I had already compiled the evidence of GMO health dangers into 2 books and spoken about the topic in 25 countries. I also knew that the impacts on lab animals was quick. Wow, I cannot talk. Rats fed GMOs were seriously damaged within the rats were within just 10 days. But for some reason, I was convinced that their detrimental influence on humans would be slow and subtle. It wasn't until I spoke with doctors who had prescribed non-GMO diets to thousands of patients that I realized just how quickly and dramatically humans can respond. I visited their clinics to speak with patients to confirm this firsthand. Many were seeking improvements seeing improvements right away, with chronic conditions disappearing in just days or weeks.
That's bullshit. That's got to be 100% bullshit, because I actually just read an article on that exact thing where they were feeding the rats the GM. They were potatoes, by the way, not tomatoes. They were potatoes, and the potatoes were GMO'd. What did they do with them? Hang on, let me think for a second. With antioxidants, I believe. Anyway, which aren't bad for you. And they did another study after a report like this was filed. And they broke a whole shit ton of rat groups into like 2 different groups with a bunch of rats, and they fed one group GMO'd potatoes and the other group non-GMO'd potatoes, and the death rates were almost identical. So that whole thing about them, and there was they found on either side of the spectrum that there was no real damage to any organs or anything like that. Nothing out of the ordinary. So that test just showed that GMOs and non-GMO type, at least in potatoes anyways, was ineffectual to the death rate of those rats.
Yeah, and weren't there studies as well where they had picked rat populations or mouse populations that they knew had high risk of tumors?
Yes.
Like there's that one study saying that they showed the rats with huge tumors all over their bodies, and we're saying this is a result of
From
GMO, but actually
completely
it
different
was
test.
these rats had a genetic mutation that predisposed them to these tumors, and they were going to get them anyway. And you see that in the control group as well, but they didn't show you the control group.
Nope.
Because that disproves their study that shows that it's not significant. But so with this kind of statement, like what tactics, what rhetorical tactics are being used here that are dangerous? Like picking apart the things that they're saying here. What can you see that's a problem?
Well, it's the problem is dishonesty and a lack of actual properly done studies. Like you've got the picture of tomatoes right there, and I'm wondering if that's connected to the one that the Royal Society spoke about the GM tomatoes that were modified to produce high levels of antioxidants, which were known to reduce cancer, like at least reduce the chances of getting cancer. Anyway, so there's an example of a GMO that has a positive side effect. They increase antioxidants in some of these fruits and vegetables, and that in turn can lower, well, for most of us anyways, doesn't negate it, of course, because you can't really do that, but it lowers your chances of specific cancers developing in your body because you're taking these specific increased antioxidant or eating these specific increased antioxidant type fruits and vegetables. It's always good to eat fruits and vegetables anyways, and they do that a little bit on their own anyways, but genetically amplified, we'll say, they lower the risk even further. I mean, we're talking small percentages too, but
Yeah,
that's another thing that really bothers me as they talk about, oh, so many people died. Like, yeah, 3 out of 390,000 people. Like, that's insignificant.
and they have to report deaths within their study population regardless of the cause.
Yes,
so you don't know why they died, and I think they sometimes
They'll
report.
always link it.
Yeah, yeah, and you could be hit by a bus, and as long as you were in the study, it's still recorded as a death because you didn't continue with the study. Some things here that definitely jump out.
He ate all those genetically modified tomatoes, and then he died. Yeah, because he was attacked by a group of killer bees. That's why he died.
Like some things here that are problematic, just with the way that he's phrasing this. He's taking this approach of using experience. Most of what he's saying here is just arguing from experience, saying that these people I talked to shared this experience, or I had this experience speaking with doctors who had this experience. And like, that's not a method for truth evaluation, because as we all know in this community, experience isn't evidence. But people listen to that. And
we're used to doing that, though.
And he says that he's citing the fact that he has 2 books and that he's spoken about this in 25 countries. That doesn't mean that your information's correct. It just means that you wrote a book. Like, anyone could write a book, and anyone can speak at conferences. Like, and you're not telling us which conferences those were. And, because if you go and speak at a specifically anti-GMO event, sure, yeah, I could see you doing that. I doubt that you've spoken at, like, medical conferences with the like American Academy of Gastroenterology or something.
Unlikely.
Yeah, like, tell us where you spoke, what journals you've been published in, like, and these are books, these are not journals.
Probably spoken to large get together with Facebook people that are against GMOs.
Yeah, anyone can set up an event and be a speaker.
Yeah,
I could set up an event in my backyard and claim I was a keynote speaker. Anyone can do that. Like, and he says that We should do it. He says that rats fed GMOs were seriously damaged within just 10 days and not explaining how they were damaged. Like, what does this damage look like? Because this
He's
is
inferring that
incredibly
it was from the
vague.
GMO.
Like, did it cause liver damage? Did it cause kidney damage? And specifically, if you're going to say that, what type of damage? Did it cause cirrhosis? Did it cause embolism? Like, you could be, if you have data and like something within the scientific community, and I'm sure, Neil, you will agree with me on this, if you have legitimate data, if you have a legitimate study, you're pretty willing to say, this is exactly what my study showed. Like, people who have a significant p-value that was conducted like with an honest study are happy to tell you that their p-value is less than 0.05. Like, if their data is significant, they are happy to tell you and disclose to you what they did and what their numbers are, because like they're proud of that shit. Like, researchers are proud when they do a good study. Like, when you're hiding your data and hiding the mechanism by which something happened, it's not as convincing to me that you did a good study.
Yep. Well, some people might hide their results because they weren't in their favor.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Which is what it's saying to me, that maybe your study doesn't support your point.
Yes. Yeah. I wonder if this whole thing about the rats came from the study done on Bacillus thuringiensis, or whatever the fuck it's called. Thuringiensis, I think is how it's pronounced. Anyway,
I don't know.
BT corn, basically.
Yeah, I think it did.
It might have come from that sort of thing. And of course, you're right. They didn't, according to this, they didn't specify what the different problems were with the rats. They claimed organ health and functions were being affected, and when they redid the studies in an actual lab, they found that there was no that they were not affected by GMOs, and then there was no evidence for gene transfer between GMOs and consumers, because that was another thing apparently they were concerned about, is that the genetically manipulated food was going to affect their own genome. And when I first heard that excuse come out, I was like, wait, what? Another organism's genes aren't going to come into contact with your fucking genes, so you're just
exactly.
They're going through your system, but
yeah, we eat genes every day. We eat DNA. Everything we eat has DNA, and you don't
DNA.
Yeah, like you don't absorb the DNA and have it go into the nucleus of your cell and hybridize. That's not how this works. Like, even the DNA we intake, like it gets broken down into its building blocks, and you can absorb building blocks, but your body does its own work to put those building blocks into the DNA that we have. But it's not like the same sequence of DNA and even it's not even DNA at that point. It's just the nucleosides and nucleotides.
There's no DNA in my coffee right now. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, so not everything is DNA. Most things that we eat are DNA.
Well, if you eat a ripe tomato, you're eating the tomato DNA.
Yeah, plants, meat, all DNA.
All in there.
So I want to share the next, like the big website that I wanted to show, because this is the propaganda. Like, this is really what the propaganda is leading to. These people are taking money and they're lobbying. So here's their website, GMO Free USA and Toxin Free USA, advocating for clean food. And we have this picture right away, reaching millions of people, advocating for clean food. And you've assigned this as GMO Free USA. What kind of world do you want your children to live in? And I have
with increased food quality. How's that sound?
Exactly. And I agree with this kid right here. Like, that's my expression.
Why am I here? Mom, fuck you. Just give me a
But an advantage we have with GMO food is that, you know, we can feed more people. we can produce food that can grow in areas that wouldn't have certain foods. You can decrease the prevalence of vitamin deficiencies, like with golden rice is something that's being used to provide vitamin A to areas that don't often have it.
That are usually short on it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to live in a world where my kids have food.
Yes.
I want to live in a world where other people's kids have food.
And hey, you know what? Even if it doesn't affect their DNA, which I still think is funny, then who knows? Maybe we'll end up with the X-Men, and then you'll have a kid that's like Wolverine.
And like, let me ask this: like, what level of privilege does somebody have to just not need to care about food availability? Like, a lot of these people that advocate against GMOs, especially at this lobbying, like, political level, have food, and they don't need to be worried about where they get their food from. A lot of them, like, especially if you have the money to buy everything organic, like, there's a certain level of privilege that comes with that, right? Like, you have money to do that. Not everybody can pay $4 for an apple. Like, and that's an exaggeration. I don't think organic apples are $4, but
they're a couple bucks.
Yeah. So
have you tried grapes?
I haven't, but I want to.
They're so good. They're green apples that taste like green grapes. They're tasty.
So they have all of these boycotts that they're doing. There's the Kellogg's GMO boycott, the GMO grass boycott. This one makes me laugh because the GMO mosquitoes, which like that's not even a food thing, but the whole point of the GMO mosquito was to stop things like malaria and Zika and mosquito-borne illness.
Yes, they alter them so that if they were ever to come in contact with those diseases or viruses or whatever, that they wouldn't be able to live within the mosquito.
Yeah, and it's to outcompete the infectious mosquitoes.
Yes.
So we have mosquitoes that are less likely to give you malaria. This is a good thing.
Personally, I think you could just get rid of mosquitoes and we'd be fine with that.
I mean, true.
Well, there are other species that would probably disappear if we did that, namely bats and birds and stuff. But do we really need them too? Of course we do. I'm kidding, people. I'm kidding.
Yeah, like Cube Brain Bug's entrance.
Yeah. Brain Bug. Hey, Neil, shut up.
But here they have some education. We've got Introduction to GMOs. There's no scientific consensus on the safety of GMOs.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I kind of want to go to their Intro to GMOs.
No consensus. My fucking left nut, no consensus.
GMO, genetically modified organism. GM, genetically modified. GE, genetic engineering or genetically engineered. Cool. So they define their terms. GMOs are created and patented by biotech and agrochemical corporations. Bayer, Monsanto, Syngenta, Dow, DuPont, Corteva, and BASF have all developed GMO commodity crops such as corn, soy, sugar beets, canola, cotton, and alfalfa.
Yeah. And then they attack my neck of the woods with the Okanagan specialty fruits. Like, what? I live there. Well, I'm not actually in the Okanagan, but my godless mom is and my dad is.
And they're also attacking Impossible Foods for having engineered the first bleeding plant-based GMO burger.
Do they know? They have no idea that the blood that's in these things is actually added to it just for effect. Oh, and a little bit of flavoring too.
It's so funny.
I know.
So they're pulling kind of an argument ad populum here with GMOs are banned or restricted in over 60 countries.
I'd like to see the actual data on that because I don't buy that.
I don't buy that. But also, even if it's true, is that evidence that GMOs are bad?
Right. No, of course not. It's evidence of more uneducated people in the field is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course,
And keep in
GMOs.
mind that a lot of legislation is like it's susceptible to lobbying, and like this is an organization that lobbies. So like just because some legislation passes, that does not mean that it was done with scientific basis at all. We know that our governments are passing a lot of laws that are not scientifically based.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Recently too.
Mm-hmm. The USDA, under the direction of legislation passed in May 2016, was required to develop standards for labeling GMOs. In 2019, the standards, which don't require on-package GMO labeling, were finalized. The mandatory compliance date for implementation is January 1st, 2022, but the standard falls woefully short of consumer expectations and is riddled with loopholes that are more confusing than helpful. Without comprehensive on-package labeling, there's no traceability, accountability, or reliability.
That's the issue. It's the problem is when you have so many different people that are anti-GMO in this huge group of people, you're never going to, hit that expectation level because each of them probably have different expectations than all the other ones. So there's going to be a small group of them say, "Well, that doesn't meet my expectation," and then the small group goes, "Well, it meets ours." But it's like, so are they ever gonna? It's like, how about you guys actually get more information and education on what GMO actually is? Anything that has been found to be harmful through these procedures for genetic modification is tossed to the side because they know that it can produce harmful results. So everything has to be passed. It goes through 3 stages, just like vaccines, of being passed to be consumed by the public. And there are 3 different groups involved, FDA being one of them.
So I know we talked a little bit already about the non-GMO label, but with the label, and let's say I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, just so we can address this as a point. When somebody says, "What is the harm in labeling? Even if it's a useless label, what is the harm in putting that label on food?"
There's a way to figure that out. I say we take a whole bunch of GMO food and label it as non-GMO and put it out there and see the lunatics that are anti-GMO start buying this stuff up. And then you go to them later and say, "Well, what did you think of the non-GMO foods that we produced and you guys has consumed? Is it much better than the GMO stuff?" And they go, "Oh yeah, it's great. And fuck yeah, nothing wrong with me at all. And oh yeah, and blah, blah, blah." I hate to break this to you, but it was all GMO food. We just put those labels on there to see if you would buy them. That's a good way to do a test right there.
Yeah. Do you think that like there is an issue with do you think that the label of non-GMO kind of furthers the panic?
Yes. Yes, of course.
So
I don't see how you could think it wouldn't further the panic.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a label and it's the assumption that, oh, there's a reason why this has to be a label.
Exactly.
And then people buy it and they buy into more of the panic. And so for people who say that the label isn't a problem, the label is a problem because it furthers the misinformation. So that's why we don't have a problem with informed consent. That's not the issue here. The issue is that it's not informed.
Air nailed one too. It was just like the old MSG panic that happened back in the day.
Oh, definitely.
Eventually, though, people realized that it was nonsense. So there's no MSG panic anymore. And I'm hoping the same thing happens with GMOs.
Oh, same. Right? I hope that people learn.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the people that are involved in doing genetically modified organism type stuff can show their results to a degree where the average layman can understand and see the effects, that there's no health issues or anything like that, so that they'll feel safer when they buy foods like that. Because most of the GMOs we have are done for specific reasons, either to boost the harvest, to make them able to grow in areas they couldn't grow before. Drought protection, insect protection, fungal protection, viral protection. These are all reasons that these foods are being GMO'd so that we can still have all the foods we've loved throughout time and history in today's culture and climate and all sorts of things that people can still consume them. And they do, by the way, do GMOs that enhance flavor, FYI, as I mentioned earlier. So there you go.
So the next paragraph talks about food availability, which we already kind of addressed. So this one, GMOs are generally created through recombinant DNA techniques, completely unlike traditional breeding. Most GMOs currently on the market are transgenic, made by forcing synthetic versions of genes based on those from one or more species into the DNA of an unrelated species in order to introduce a new trait. This cannot occur in the natural world. Examples of this are inserting a synthetic version of the bacterial gene toxic to insects into corn plants so that corn rootworms die when they attempt to eat the corn, or inserting a synthetic gene from an eel pout into a salmon in an attempt to make the salmon grow more quickly. The remaining,
all that is true. They did do those things.
The remaining GMOs on the market are primarily intragenic, made by forcing synthetic versions of genes based on those from one or more species into the DNA of a related species. Most of these intragenic GMOs include RNA interference constructs. These synthetic combinations of parts of genes do not occur in the natural world. Examples include the non-browning Arctic apple and non-bruising Simplot innate potato.
Yet.
There's a lot to...
and give nature time.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with this paragraph.
Of huge problems. First of all, by using the term forcing synthetic versions, like there's no forcing. They try specific things. They look for specific genes. They try them out. If they don't work, they don't work. They're not forcing them in there. You can't force something in there. You literally will get frankenfruit. So you don't need to force anything into there. It's all genes are, what would we say? What would be a good word? Most of the genes that we know of can be brought together in some form or another, and you don't have to force them. That's how DNA works. And RNA interference, what in the fuck does that even mean?
I mean, I know RNAi is used as a technique. I was a lot more familiar with RNAi back when I studied biology, but I don't know what they're meaning.
I don't know what it means in this context.
Yeah. It's something that, like, I love when they say that this cannot happen in the natural world, but it does. We have bacterial genes that integrate with eukaryotic DNA, and even like we have evidence that the mitochondria is the result of the bacteria. Like it was a symbiotic relationship. We have overlap, and we've always had overlap with other organisms. DNA transfers, and that's just what happens.
Most of the DNA in your body isn't even yours. It's all the other microbiome that lives within you and on you. And believe me, there's trillions of them, people.
So this is actually one of the most natural things that happens.
That's right. Yeah.
So this is a poor argument.
Oh, well, I think they knew it, and they just tried to use specific phrasing to give people a little extra jolt of fear.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And something like with genetic engineering, I think people are so scared of, like, they're trying to scare people of the tool as a whole. Like, if genetic engineering is a tool, it is a method. But people are taking an example of a very specific GMO that they don't like and saying that all of them are bad. Well, yeah, you can use a technique for negative things. You can do that with anything. Like, I can take a hammer and build a house, or I can take a hammer and hit my neighbor with it. Like, it's
Was
not
your
the
neighbor a
fact that,
dick or?
yeah, like, well, it's not the fault of the hammer. Like, I can't take the example of I hit my neighbor with my hammer, therefore we should ban all hammers, like, from being safe.
It's like the gun argument
Like,
too.
it's like the gun argument, yeah. But it's like, and let's say we have a hammer and we have a nail gun.
If I had a hammer, I'd hammer.
Yeah, so like you have a hammer, that's our traditional natural tool that we're going to use, and then we say, well, I can make more houses in this same amount of time with my nail gun, and I can do it safely and effectively.
And faster.
But it's not natural. We've always used this hammer.
Yeah.
So why are you using this nail gun now? This one time, like, this nail gun jammed and hurt somebody. We can't. It's not safe. You should never. Okay, but that was an isolated incident where this caused a problem. This doesn't always happen. It might have been that brand of nail gun. It might have been, but it's take the simple. Yeah.
Just a quick side note on nail guns. I used to work for a factory that built furniture, and we used to have nail gun fights. Don't do that.
Don't have nail gun fights. No,
don't shoot nails at each other. It's always fun picking 12 nails out of your knee. Yeah.
But yeah, so you can have a GMO that's a negative consequence. Like if I decided to genetically modify my baby to glow in the dark, like you could argue that that's not a great thing that we should market. Right. But that's not what we're talking about. So, and I mean, side note, if you wanted to make a baby glow in the dark, it would not be difficult.
Nope. Yeah, you can use the genes from glow bugs or fireflies.
Yeah. You just tag the actin gene. Tag the actin gene with like either that or the jellyfish one, and
jellyfish
while they're an embryo, and while they're still replicating, all of their cells will have it. Their actin now lights up. There you go.
I want a glow in the dark kid. It'll be easier to find. I mean,
it's possible.
No one's going to kidnap them. You know what I mean?
It's all fun and games until you have to pick 12 nails out of your knee.
That might have been a bit of an exaggeration. You'd have to get pretty close to actually stick a nail in somebody's knee. I did get 2 in my knee, not 12. Just being a little dramatic. But we shot them from across the room. We weren't like up close going, hey, right up to the guy's head or something, because that will kill you.
All right. I want to hear Neil's take on this next paragraph. Newer methods used to genetically engineer plants and animals include gene editing techniques such as CRISPR, TALENs, and zinc finger, and extreme forms of engineering such as synthetic biology or synbio. Although deregulated in the US, GMOs produced with these methods can still result in unpredictable effects, including changes in plant chemistry that may have toxic effects. Industry falsely touts these new methods as precise when peer-reviewed science shows that they are not.
Okay, that there is bullshit. That last line is bullshit. Most of that sentence is synthetic biology. Well, that is a thing, obviously. But I mean, the CRISPR, TALENs, and zinc finger stuff is known research, and the stuff that they're doing does have a lot of benefits. But I don't understand. Still result in unpredictable effects. That is true. They can result in unpredictable effects. However, nothing gets out of the lab stage, we'll say, or the experimental stage, until those unpredictable effects have revealed themselves. So you're not going to get anything that still has unpredictable effect. Well, I guess I can't say that with 100% accuracy, because there are some effects that don't happen for years. However, through the research that they do, without going into actual technical stuff, the research that they do shows that the likelihood of something severely damaging probably is not going to happen in the future. And anything that might prop up in the future would be considered insignificant. Otherwise, these things don't get passed. Like, people like to seem to think that we live in a movie where there's this dark entity that's out there to kill everybody. right? Like a lot of people don't seem to forget that. Guess what? They need us here, folks, in order to buy things and continue to make money off of us. So if they're killing us all off with this stuff, then who's going to buy all their products?
For real, though, it's such an inconsistent argument.
It is, and these new methods are precise. So don't buy the bullshit about them not being precise. They have to be precise, or else they're not going to get anywhere with what they want to produce. So that's just more fear mongering.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration does not do safety studies and allows biotech companies to do their own safety testing. These industry papers, which always present GMOs favorably, are not peer-reviewed and not accessible by the public. Peer-reviewed industry, independent animal feeding, and environmental impact studies have documented many harmful health and environmental effects.
I'd like to see that. And they even put little numbers under there, which are citations. So can we get to some of those? Because you know what? Anything that has been peer-reviewed can be viewed by the public. It's the whole point of it, is to remove bias from your testing. That's what peer review is. Most of the people that are work on, like if somebody, here's my study, this is what I found, I think it's great, check it out, make sure it's everything I think it is. And people are out there to disprove and discredit those studies, because then they're going to be, well, for lack of a better term, they'll be up for the next fucking award because of that. But it's to keep bias out of the scientific process. That's what peer review is. So any peer review that has been done on anything significant will be available for the public to see. But I've looked at lots of peer review stuff, and even as a hack chemist that I am, there's some stuff in there that even I go, what does that even mean? Like sometimes even I get confused on some of the stuff too. But and that's why people don't go and look at peer review, because it's actual jargon and they don't understand what the jargon means. I'm still learning. Well, we're all still learning technically, but a lot of stuff I'm still learning. But we're getting there. I know exactly everything I need to know to do the job I do. So
let's learn about Roundup. The majority of GMO crops are herbicide tolerant, meaning they are engineered to withstand heavy applications of toxic weed killers like Bayer Monsanto's Roundup, killing weeds and all other plant life except the crop. Despite being called weed killers, most herbicides such as glyphosate are proven to be harmful to human and animal health. Full weed killer formulations such as glyphosate-based Roundup are shown to be much more toxic than their active ingredients. Newer GMOs are usually stacked trait, meaning that they are tolerant to multiple herbicides. These newer GMOs include crops tolerant of glyphosate and dicamba, glyphosate and 2,4-D, and even GMOs developed by Bayer Monsanto that are tolerant of 5 different toxic herbicides: 2,4-D, dicamba, glyphosate. I have not heard of this last one.
Kozalofop or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a new one on me too. Most of the plants that are GM'd with the genes to make them tolerant of these, they do that for a purpose, or intentionally, because they need to get rid of all the weeds and harmful plants that might grow in the fields with the plants that they're trying to raise. So the level of glyphosates, at least as far as I've seen in some of the literature, isn't high enough to do anything to you. And glyphosates, as we talked earlier, are anti. Tell Ben, it's falling out of my head again. Glyphosates are the glyphosates. Oh, good Lord. We talked about it just before going live.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember what we're talking about. That's where my brain's at today.
AT&T, folks.
Yeah.
But
it's. I mean, while you think about that, it's funny how, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we don't talk a lot about organic crops and the pesticides that are used on those, because despite what people think, organic still uses pesticides.
Yes, they're natural pesticides, but they're still pesticides.
Oftentimes the pesticides are less effective, meaning that they have to use more of them than a conventional pesticide.
Yep.
So
in GMs, they actually make the plants with those specific pesticides that the organics are spraying on theirs is actually in the plant itself. They GMO them to have that pesticide, or they're basically like the ones that they've put here within the plant, so you don't have to spray. But the organic farms, you can't fucking do that, and they go around, they spray the shit all over it. Then they have to do it twice because it's not as effective as if it was actually spliced into the plant.
So you're getting the same chemical in the organic plant that you would get in the GM plant. It's just one is scary because it's a GMO, and the other one's not scary because it has the organic label on it.
I like Franz Vink's comment there. Non-GMO popcorn needs to be prepared in an organic microwave for sure.
Definitely.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, the inconsistencies are hilarious. It's like when people talk about like how pesticides cause cancer, or like GMOs cause cancer, and then you see these people like drinking wine, and you're like, okay, you have something that is
well, one glass might help.
Yeah, but like you're complaining about this small, very small possibility that you could get a cancer from something, and then you have a known carcinogen, which is ethanol. So like you're gonna drink the thing that is a known contributor to cancer, and then be like, well, I just don't know if the GMO causes cancer or not.
All these fucking people with their goddamn carcinogens, I don't get it, you know.
I mean, you're right, Air, that if you inhale them directly, and if you, because it's dose dependent. All of these are dose dependent.
That's a very good point, man. We're talking levels too.
Like we need to teach people about toxicology and what dose dependent relationships are, and how like everything is toxic in a certain dose. It's just you need the right dose over the right amount of time, and you're gonna get toxicity. Like the whole dihydrogen monoxide scare. Of course, you're gonna.
That was a joke.
I know. It's so funny.
It'll kill you. Well, yeah, if you drink enough of it, it will. But
I think like for a 75 kilogram person, it's like 5 liters of water within like a certain number of hour. I don't remember the time duration that was required, but it's an incredible amount of water within that time frame.
I think in a 24-hour time frame, if you drink more than something like 30 liters, it could kill you.
Yeah, it's only like 5 liters for like a couple hour time frame. It's
good luck drinking that much in a couple hours, though.
Oh yeah, but it's still like water's still toxic in those doses. Everything that you consume is toxic in a certain dose.
That's right. See, but one of the things I unfortunately I have a relative that's a little bit like this, scared of everything. Like, well, then just stop eating. You know, so they're anti-vax, and then I'm like, says the person who drinks, does drugs, and smokes.
Yeah.
What? And you're afraid of a minute percentage of some side effect that might happen? Get vaccinated, you moron. You know, what's wrong with you?
We talked about all these, so I kind of want to go back and
make fun of
look at the. I want to look at.
I was going to say, and I forgot now, Ben. Damn it!
I'm sorry.
Damn it!
I was going
to be sorry.
This is just a picture. It's just a picture. There's no.
No, it should be linked. I think I went to that. Oh, you're right. It isn't.
Yeah, this is just a picture.
The GMO research one.
Yeah, here we go.
There you go. Look at their fancy little lettering too. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. They say that these are pure GMO myths and truths. I want to read this.
Okay, well then.
Oh, this is not This is not a journal article. This is a book.
Oh. For the research?
It's included in the research, but this sounds like this is not research. This is a book.
All I'm still seeing is the page you were on before. For some reason.
Oh, right. Okay. Let me switch over to this tab. That would be helpful.
I'll see my picture pops up as bigger again, and I forgot just how fucking ugly I am.
Yeah, so we're on the GMO research page, and somebody's book that's included within this whole research.
Mama Bear's going to tell you the truth about GMOs, folks.
So it's a book, but they're writing this as if it's a research article. Like they've got keywords and they have an abstract.
Oh boy!
So it looks like this is research, but it's not. It's a book.
I'm sure they think.
And this is a terrible abstract. Like this is not an abstract. So some would have us believe that the case against genetically modified crops and foods is based on emotion, not science, and that to oppose GM crop and food technology is to be anti-science. The same people claim that GM crops offer high yields and better nutrition, that they are safe for health and the environment, that they reduce agrochemical use, and that they are needed to feed the world's growing population. This book, co-authored by 2 genetic engineers and a writer-researcher, exposes these claims as false using scientific and other documented evidence.
No,
GMO myths. Yeah.
Before we carry on, I just want to say 2 genetic engineers who seem to be against this versus the thousands of others that are for it.
Yeah.
Enough said.
But like, I mean, just think about this. Like, I would not call this an abstract. This is a summary of the book.
Yeah.
This is not an abstract.
But, people that read these things on the people that go to the websites of this don't know that. They don't know the difference between a summary and an abstract.
Yeah. They don't. Let's
Oh, hey, it even has support GMO research. Right on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to support GMO research.
Me too.
I don't. Are there any studies that like you wanted to pull up?
I actually didn't go into this section myself too deeply because I was laughing at the first few pages, so I couldn't. I couldn't get air in my lungs enough to actually continue. So
I want to pull up one of these articles that they have about the legislation.
Oh, okay, sure. These people are bad, and I think that we should sick Mecha Barbara Streisand on them.
Yeah. All right, let's look at their petition that they're trying to get for Kellogg's. Which, like, there's other reasons to boycott Kellogg's besides the GM issue. Like,
don't take away my Frosted Flakes, I'll kill you.
No, I'm like in terms of like ethical business and like
sure,
workers. Like those are
almost everyone.
Yeah. But like not because they use GMOs. So they had a picture that was they have keep ex Monsanto employees off FDA payroll, remove GMOs.
Ex Monsanto employees off the payroll. That's funny.
And just looking at it, it's really funny. Because the way that this group is carrying themselves, it almost reminds me like of the gender critical protests in the UK. Like it's giving me the same vibes a little bit. So they want to tell Kellogg's to remove GMOs to get non-GMO project verified and transition to organic.
I have the biggest issue I have with organic, the term, what do they mean?
Yeah. Carbon based.
Yeah, but even GMO are carbon based.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything we eat is organic because it's organic. It's like everything is carbon based here. They got to come up with a better term. Because organic doesn't cut it. It's such a fucking it's a buzzword label that sells products is what it is, just like the non-GMO one, which isn't even true.
Anyway, I want to read the report they sent about Kellogg's Fruit Loops. They have a report.
I'm not a huge fan of Fruit Loops anyway, so
I like Fruit Loops. But oh man, let's look at this, because this is cooler than their weird petition. Okay. We are doing investigative journalism here today, everybody.
Dun dun dun.
So we have Kellogg's Fruit Loops test positive for GMO and weed killer.
So
in
what?
2013, GMO Free USA sent a sample of Fruit Loops to a certified lab to test for the presence of GMO material.
I highly doubt that.
The quantitative PCR test verified by DNA analysis that 100% of the corn in the Fruit Loops was GMO, containing DNA sequences known to be present in insecticide-producing BT and Roundup-ready corn.
I'm just going to mute this for a second.
The soy contained contained DNA sequences known to be present in Roundup Ready GMOs. Soy. This year, we plan to continue testing for the presence of GMOs in various food products, and now we have expanded our testing to include glyphosate. GMO Free USA plans to further expand testing to include 2,4-D dicamba, atrazine, and neonicotinoid. I cannot speak. Insecticides. Operation labeled GMOs.
Oh wow.
God.
Oh wow. Oh.
The images they always use are hilarious.
I wonder if they're even aware that you actually, well, I can't say 100%. Well, I can't say anything 100% except for that last statement. You can't, I don't know if it's possible to even find corn that hasn't been genetically modified. All of it is genetic modification.
Mm-hmm.
Could you even buy corn that isn't GMO'd? No, I don't even think so. So what the fuck does that even mean? Wow, these people are dumb. Yeah, Air's
the
with
corn
me on the
and
Frosted Flakes thing. Sorry.
The corn in Fruit Loops produces insecticides from inside every cell of the plant that can't be washed off and is regulated by the EPA. The FDA, the EPA, and USDA allowed the insecticidal GMO corn discovered in Fruit Loops to be commercialized without ever conducting human safety tests.
That's a misnomer. Bullshit. That's a misnomer because it wasn't required. Because they're fine. You don't have to worry about that shit. That's why they were never done on human safety tests.
Mm-hmm.
See, and now they're just using that as a loophole to scare you a little bit more. The tests weren't required, you fucking morons.
An in vitro study found that the insecticides in this corn may be toxic to human cells. Feeding studies conducted on mammals found adverse effects, including immune system disturbances, blood biochemistry disturbances, male reproductive organ damage, disturbances in functioning of the digestive system, and signs of organ toxicity. Industry claims that these insecticidal proteins are broken down in the digestive tract, yet a study found the proteins circulating in the blood of pregnant and non-pregnant women and the blood supply to fetuses. Wow. This is hilarious because they're not even giving their examples of what disturbances.
Is this Dr. Cross person? Is this just
This is Dr. Cross. Dr. Cross is a biochemist.
Okay.
We can debate this at a later time, Dr. Cross. It's a lot relates to the concentration of certain pesticides. Like, of course, all of them are going to be toxic at certain dosages, but they're not used in the dosages that are toxic. Unless, of course, like if you're working on the farm, that's a different discussion entirely. But Neil's thinking. Neil's thinking.
No, I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Carry on.
All right. So we can talk about so they mentioned a little bit about the study. The glyphosate residue test was conducted by an accredited lab using the specific LCMSMS testing method with minimum detectable level of 0.02 parts per million. The test documented the presence of glyphosate in Fruit Loops at a level of 0.12 parts per million or 0.12 milligrams per kilogram. This gives significant reason for concern. So, Neil, as a chemist, would you like to talk about what they did here?
I don't know enough about the glyphosate stuff, so I can't really get too deeply into that one. I do know that those levels that they're talking about there, probably came from chromatography results.
Mm-hmm.
They're very low, and addressing some of the things that the Dr. Cross has put in the chat is toxic about how they are toxic to the environment. Some of them are absolutely. However, there are much more toxic things that we deal with on a daily basis that we should be concerned about over the minute levels of herbicides and pesticides that are mostly actually genetically inside the plants now, rather than having to spray them. And those levels are insignificant to humans. They're not at levels that are going to actually be harmful to you. So long-term ingestion is an environment. Okay, if you're a biochemist, you should know that long-term results, you would have to be consuming these constantly in order for there to be some sort of long-term problem. And sure, we consume a lot of stuff on the regular that might carry some of these in there, but I still don't think that it's enough to be concerned about your health, because our lifespans aren't long enough for there to be any real damage in the long run. Don't forget, we don't.
Yeah, I don't have as much to weigh in on that because I would I need to look at some data before I
and there's more I could look at
talk about it. Because I have no clue about the long term, and like I'm not super well versed in the environmental issues, so I'm gonna stay quiet on that. Because I don't want to talk out of my ass. But
right.
I'm sure that there's like the environmental issue is.
I don't think we have much to be concerned about.
I will debate off screen about artificial flavors and colors.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole separate topic, but I feel like we disagree on that. What?
That's not GMO.
It's not GMO.
And
yeah.
Luckily enough, I used to work actually in the paint industry too, so I know all about artificial colors. And well, in the paint industry, you don't want to eat those artificial colors because you don't want to consume that shit. But the stuff that's considered "quote unquote" food safe is actually food safe.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be, or it doesn't pass the 3-level testing, and it doesn't get out to the consumer. Anything that would be considered too toxic or toxic enough where it's concerning does not make it to the public. Period.
Exactly. Yeah, we can have that whole debate at a later time. I think we're starting to, because a lot of this is just repeating itself, using the same arguments over and over again.
I noticed that's one thing I did notice about that site is they just reiterate shit on different pages.
Like they don't have a lot of new information. The same rhetoric, the same tactics. So what are some things we can take away from kind of what we talked about in this episode?
Actually, that's kind of funny. Yeah, that was hilarious when that little trend was going around. The kids eating Tide Pods, and then they had all these other memes come out. Like you could do, what was it? The Tide box cereal with the little mini. You open up, you pour milk in it. You can eat Tide cereal, and then they had the little plastic or the cello plastic, whatever the hell it is, packages that you can put a straw in, and you have a Tide drink. Like they had all kinds of stuff come out.
That's hilarious. So that's hilarious.
Yeah, you're right, Dr. Cross. They never cite shit. Well, they do, but I'm highly skeptical of the citations that they're using.
Oh yeah, like we just went to that one that was saying they were citing a study and it was a book, and that said that they had an abstract that was a summary of their book. Yeah, Neil gets a lot of people's humor. Yeah, you two get along pretty well.
We're in similar fields. I work in the environmental sector, and I test. I do stuff like ICAP, chromatography, pH and ion millivolt readings and stuff for like antifreezes and oils and stuff like that to make sure. We recycle antifreeze, and I have to make sure it's good for the public, and that's when I GMO it all. No, I'm kidding.
And I think
that's the kind of shit I do.
I think this definitely, there does need to be more conversation and study within like the environmental aspects and then also within the business aspects, because of course, like I'm only speaking from like my side and Neil's side talking about the food safety aspect. But
cool.
You know, a big problem that actually does exist with GM is the business, like in business ethics, and where do we go with that? And that's something I'm not educated on, but Swede has talked with me about potentially doing an episode on that side of it. So that would actually be really interesting.
Actually, what Dr. Cross's focus is fascinating to me. Clinical physiology and molecular biophysics. That's fascinating stuff to me. Anyway, yes, you're absolutely correct, Ben. There's lots of things though today that you could say we need to know long-term effects on. Right now, they can infer from some of the results that we have from certain tests and stuff in regards to glyphosates and other GMO type stuff. We can infer based on short-term reactions to what those long-term reactions could possibly be. But there's too much still of a branch where we don't know yet. And none of the scientists and companies that produce these products deny that. They never deny that. They say, yes, there could be, but as of now, from what we can infer from the current data, it doesn't appear that there will be, but you never know. And they always admit that. So they have to, or their product doesn't get passed.
Yeah. And just like a little side comment for people in the chat. Like people who study these particular fields, like the fact that we're having a discussion with Dr. Cross in the audience and that there's some things that we agree with and some things that we disagree with. This is how scientists communicate frequently. Like there's never 100% agreement amongst everybody that work in the same field. So it's not us talking that like we think each other are stupid for having a certain perspective. That's not what's happening here. But we have different expertise in different areas, and we have different research in different areas that cover holes that someone else's study like didn't notice. So we have these discussions, and this is kind of what happens behind the scenes within these research circles. This is what goes on. People argue all the time about this.
That's why we have peer review as well.
Exactly.
It's all part and parcel. Right?
Exactly.
A lot of people think that scientists are some big evil conglomerate that were out to get you.
Yeah,
but no,
the Illuminati.
Actually, most of us will disagree with each other based on our own experiences in the science world. We'll say so, and but at those points, a lot of the times they end up working together to come to some way to figure out an agreement. like, oh, okay, well, you were actually kind of looking at it this way, we were looking at it this way. Let's blend these two and figure it out, and then we can come up with some form of a consensus. And that's basically how we do that. Yeah, yeah, we don't argue, we chat. We just chat loudly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to even like completely off topic, but not necessarily, the physics world with Einstein and Niels Bohr, the way they used to go at each other with their difference of opinion on the quantum field theory or quantum mechanics. So
yeah,
scientists are always button heads. It's just part of the process.
Yeah, this is just what happens, and this is how we get better. We're gonna make each other better, and that's the goal. So I appreciate Dr. Cross for being here and being like open to communicating, and it's great. We can have some further discussion down the road too. I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to talk about in the future about this. But we're gonna, Dr. Cross is super cool. But let's kind of wrap up this show. So any kind of last takeaways from today's episode, Neil?
Yeah. It's okay to be concerned about things you don't understand. But if you don't understand them, I highly suggest you do your best, because we, of course, many of us that are scared of these types of things are laymen's in these sorts of fields. But you may know somebody that might know a little bit more and can help you through and help you to better understand what you are, for some reason, afraid of before actually understanding it. So I think better to get an understanding of something before you become scared of it. Right? And we've seen examples of this, not just in GMOs and other sciences, but even in social constructs. We've seen people be afraid of things that they shouldn't be. So a better education and understanding is always a way to improve your perspective, and then you don't have to live in fear. Okay, so that's one thing I can say. And just because something says non-GMO on a label doesn't mean it's actually non-GMO. It's hard to find things these days that haven't been modified one way or another. So keep that in mind as well. Those are selling points in marketing scams. Same with the organic labels.
Absolutely, Dr. Cross. Educate and elevate.
Absolutely.
Love it. So once again, Neil, I know we already shilled at the beginning, but where can we find you on the internet?
That's the way to better hone that question. Well, in a few minutes, I'll be running naked in the back alley. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me on YouTube at Neil the 604 Atheist. It's Deconversion Stories with Neil the 604 Atheist. So I always say, if any of you out there in the chat used to be a believer in some crazy ass belief system and you found your way free, I'd love to hear that story. So hit me up through DMs on Twitter or Facebook, or my email, which is 604atheist@gmail.com. And we'll talk, and we'll set up an hour's worth of conversation and an after party so you can meet more folks in the community. And that's pretty much.
And there's one tonight. This evening.
There is one tonight with hang on. My memory. So Carrie J. Walker. I was going to say Kelly J. Walker. No, I don't think that's right. Carrie J. Walker tonight. I'll have on the show. So
yeah. So come watch that.
I would let Neil take my mom on a bike ride. All right then.
Wow. All right.
Streaker. There you go.
Put your channel in the side chat. It's also in the description. Also, so of course, obviously, you all know about Medical Myths on Saturdays. We do not have Nat 1 Heroes tomorrow for Rime of the Frost Maiden because I'm taking the medical boards on Monday. So we're taking a week off from that. And then we've got trivia nights on Fridays on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And right after this, we have our lovely Patreon exclusive after show where we have our fun shenanigans. But thank you to the patrons, Reggie, Kevin Downey. I need to change B's name to Uncle Beck because he changed his name. But
that's right, he did.
Haney Ball, thank you all for supporting the channel, and you will be able to watch the after show. So if you'd like to catch the after show, you can go to Patreon and become a member, and then you can join us. That will start probably about 10 minutes after the show because I gotta do some things like stand up for a minute before that starts.
blood flow.
Yeah. Here's all the other links where you can find me. And next week on Medical Myths, I have the lovely Katie Montgomery joining me to talk about sex being binary as the myth. So join us next week for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been a great show. We will see you all next time.
Hope we were helpful.